write in the book, there is no faith and no courage and no sacrifice in doing what is expedient. What do you say to those viewers that don't pursue their dreams and are locked in their careers because they are too afraid to take risks and pursue something meaningful?
Well, the first thing I would say is, well, you should be afraid of taking risks and pursuing something meaningful. But you should be more afraid of staying where you are if it's making you miserable. You're paying a price by sitting there being miserable. You might say, well, the devil I know is better than the one I don't. It's like, don't be so sure of that. The clock is ticking.
Yeah,
and if you're miserable in your job now and you change nothing, in 5 years, you'll be much more miserable and you'll be a lot older.
But isn't it a luxury to pursue what is meaningful? Our viewers have mortgages, they have children, they have payments and loans. It's a luxury to pursue because we lack the resources.
Well, I don't remember now, I'm not talking about what makes you happy. It's a luxury to pursue what makes you happy. It's a moral obligation to pursue what you find meaningful. And that doesn't mean it's easy. It might require sacrifice. If you need to change your job too, let's say you have a family and children and a mortgage, you have responsibilities. You've already picked up those responsibilities. You don't just get to walk away scot-free and say, well, I don't like my job, I quit. That's no strategy. But what you might have to do is you think, well, this job is killing my soul. All right, so what do I have to do about that? Well, I have to look for another job. Well, no one wants to hire me. It's like, okay, maybe you need to educate yourself more. Maybe you need to update your curriculum vitae, your resume. Maybe you need to overcome your fear of being interviewed. Maybe you need to sharpen your social skills. Like, you have to think about these things strategically. If you're going to switch careers, you have to do it like an intelligent, responsible person. That might take you a couple of years of effort to do properly. We're built for struggle, us human beings. We're built to contend with the world. We're built to contend with reality. You want a challenge, and the best way that you can take on a challenge, because a challenge fortifies you. So you don't want to be secure, you want to be strong. And you get strong by taking on optimal challenges. And so you lay out your destiny in the world, and you take the slings and arrows of fate, and you make yourself stronger while you're doing so. And you might fail, and fortune might do you in. But it's your best bet. And you know, people have extracted unbelievable successes out of catastrophic failures. And I'm not saying that in a naive way. I know perfectly well what happens to people. You know, you're doing fine in life and then you get cancer, and then 6 months later you're dead. And all the heroism in the world isn't going to save you at that point. But that's not the point. That's not the point. Life is bounded by mortality. But that doesn't mean that you don't get out there and contend, and you develop by contending, and you minimize the net amount of suffering in the world. And that's something, man. That's something to do.
Look, I'm exhausted. Had it all figured out and I lost it. They say that's the cost, but it just feels like a lot. Stop, are you going or not? I miss certainty. Miss the 9 to 5s, knowing exactly where I need to be and why I'm not built for this. Progress moves in slow motion. They're out making money and getting promotions, saying all the right things, pulling all the right levers, while I sit here, write my future self love letters. Who's winning? Is this the end or beginning? 'Cause I'm starting to feel like reality's slipping, and bank accounts, they aren't very forgiving, and life on edge feels like falling, not living. If effort brings victory, what am I missing? Nothing good comes easy. When we have to, we push through, not knowing completely. You're here because you're made for this next level, taking these places that most people won't. Start embracing it. Who cares what they do? They're not you. You'll go through more now than you think you're supposed to, but that shows you can cope with the highs and the lows, because you rose to be more. Could've run away, could've avoided the thorns, could've been comfortable. Blood, sweat, and tears, they're expendable. No more pretending, man, build something memorable. Don't drink from their cup or by stories they tell, because when all their time's up, you'll have dug your own well. You did it. Use lifelines, you're topped off for a lifetime, so drop all those one-liners. We'll get them next time. No, this time is your time, and whatever you decide will end up being real life. No stop signs, just storylines. This whole thing is a misunderstanding, a miscalculation. Jumped and missed the landing. I'm mystified. I can waste so much time. These ovations are strictly imagination, not standing. So much for planning. Guess fate left without me. Those failure statistics, yeah, they'll be about me. Was overly optimistic. Forgot the logistics. Guess we all learn sometime, don't we? Good is not good enough. No. How long do I stay down before I let go? I buried my pride, took it inside, but never enough. It takes a toll. It gets old getting told you've got miles of road left to go. You're alone with this future unknown. Just go home. Just go home. It's safe there. Yeah, I'll find some embrace there. Look, it's time to admit defeat. A humble retreat, check the box and complete to my core. Intrinsically, it's not for me, I can't do this. I knew this is how it would be. No fame, no fortune, no names on marquees. Just running in place every day on repeat. This is the world I want to see, where everything's taken with no guarantees. No. Come on, man, pick your head up. Go back inside half a life's learning to get up. How can I make you see that you have everything you need, and what you want to be is never out of reach? Fate deceives sometimes, but destiny's calling, so can't let the phone ring. You know there's no all-knowing. Go level up, no letdowns. Let the world in, push fear out. It's self-belief, it starts right now. When hell freezes, you lay down. Until then, it's your town, it's your story, it's your crown. Live in the clouds, feet on the ground. They stand still, you run around. Go mesmerize, or they socialize. There's dollar signs to be maximized. If you live it right, regret nothing. Loud applause, the sweetest sound. And this moment won't happen again, and never becomes forever unless you choose to begin. So see greatness in each step, and power in progress. Your future, yeah, that's limitless, it's infinite. Don't forget you want this.
The champ is here! 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 The champ.
Good afternoon and welcome to Bull Market Stock Show. This is your host Rian Upson, and we're doing actually the big week for tech this week. It will be actually for me, it looks like an upbeat week. There is some companies that will release their earnings this week, so you have to be very careful. If you'd like to trade with the Nasdaq, that is always the big one. The Nasdaq and the Nasdaq 100. Now, there's also some other news that I will cover for you that will also come out this week. But let's start with the big tech companies that will release their earnings this week. So if you trade with the Nasdaq or the Nasdaq 100, these ones are basically moving normally the Nasdaq. Now, I do expect some good news for Tesla because of their earnings did well, and obviously what's his name again, who is the richest man in the world. But there's also a bit of confusion there with the recall of some cars of Tesla. So it might actually disrupt earnings, but I do expect some good numbers to come out for Tesla. And then Facebook. That is a bit of a up and down one there, as a lot of people left Facebook due to the censorship. And that started actually in December. So there is a possibility that we might get some bad news for Facebook, and Facebook do carry actually a lot of weight in the Nasdaq 100 and also in the Nasdaq. So please be careful when you're looking at these companies and their earnings that will get reported this week. On the other one also, this is now the big one. Now there might be a disruption actually. You have a big stimulus that might come through. Now, I'm not talking about the 1.9 because there is a bit of a, I would say, a quarrel when it comes to the 1.9 trillion stimulus package of Joe Biden. They are actually fighting now in Congress. Some of them want a larger stimulus package of about 4 trillion because that is what I reported on the stimulus package I think it was last week or week before, that I did actually say that the Democrats is looking for a 4 trillion stimulus package and not actually a 1.9 trillion package. So that and obviously there's also a story with the 1,004 stimulus checks that is for citizens of the United States. And initially it was 2,000, and the far left actually came out and said, listen, it is the 2,000 stimulus checks and not 1,004 stimulus checks. So there is a bit of an infighting for the stimulus checks because I would not say I can actually say most of the Democrats want a larger stimulus package of about 4 trillion. Now, this also come in with Janet Yellen that actually were making comments last week by stating that they need to act big. Now that interest rates are low, they need to go with a larger stimulus package as there's a lot of need. People that are without houses, people need to pay their rent and all of those things. And a lot of people also still unemployed in the United States. So they need to act big and actually push a larger stimulus package. So there's a bit of an infighting that's actually currently happening there. That's why the 1.9 trillion is not been cleared as in yet. Because if you look back, you would have think by now that the people did receive the 1,004 checks, but there's still nothing as in yet, as Congress did not decide yet on this check. Joe Biden said yes for the 1.9, but others were saying they want more. They want a 4,000 actually stimulus package. Now, the other problem that came out with Janet Yellen, and this was actually on Reuters. She actually said, with a 4 trillion stimulus package, you can't put now 4 trillion stimulus package and then you give the people only 2,000 US dollars, because that doesn't make sense, because you double the stimulus package, but you don't double the people's money. That was actually a very good point what she actually made, because what is the use? You just increase it with $600, but you increase the overall stimulus package with 4 trillion, because most of this money is going to the blue states, which are governed terribly in the United States. And that is actually where the whole debate is about. It's no use you increase the stimulus package to 4 trillion from 1.9 or say 2 trillion to 4 trillion. You double it, but you don't double the people's money. So what she actually was saying is like, look, if you give 1,004, then you must give 2,008 for the people. So that's why there's a huge fight on will the stimulus package come or not. So it might actually be a bit of confusion. It might cause a bit of confusion this week, because you will have your big tech companies that will release their data. Apple is also one of them that will release their data. Maybe it will be bad, I don't know, but I think maybe Facebook could be bad. That is a highly possibility. But let's say the data is bad out of the big tech companies, so their earnings are bad, but then there's a huge stimulus package that get passed of 4 trillion. So that 4 trillion stimulus package will totally offset the bad news of the big tech companies. Let's say all of them are good. That is, now the earnings results are good, and a big stimulus check come through. Believe me, the bulls will be crying out loud because the market will be all green. So it will be a bit of a confused week for a lot of traders, because I think Facebook shares and maybe Apple shares could be a bit bad. And then you have still infighting with the stimulus checks. I think there will not be a clear-cut story on the stimulus check. I doubt this week, because on the other thing also, the U.S. nearly passed the 30 trillion debt. So that is the big story there, and obviously that will raise some eyebrows if the debt is moving over 30 trillion US dollars, which is a massive debt to carry. So which means the United States are totally now 100% in debt. So for every tax money that they're getting in, they need to pay all of that to their debt. So that is actually a very scary territory to be in for the United States, and basically for any country in the world. So basically that is the big thing. That's why Joe Biden don't want actually a large stimulus check of about 4 trillion, because he wants to cut the debt. Then that's why he wants to raise taxes. But obviously we know in economics that is not how it actually works. if you have to do with the evidence suggests that you need to cut taxes, you will gain actually more people that will pay tax, and that will actually lead to your debt reduction. But obviously he's going to the old school route, raise taxes and pay off the debt. But as things stands, most of his peers and also treasurer in South Africa is known as the finance minister, is saying that they need to act big to give people more money. So I think personally this week could be a bit confused, especially for those who love the Nasdaq and your other equities, which is the Dow Jones and also the JSE, and also for commodity currencies. In currencies in general, it might be a lot of confusion. As you could see, the dollar is actually moving upward because of the confusion that is running around with the stimulus check. There was also an article that stated that Joe Biden was saying that the people of the United States can't wait any longer. And it looked like the story will not get passed this week. Also, on the other part, the Democrats is rather concentrating, or some of the Democrats are rather concentrating on the impeachment of President Trump. And that is an unnecessary story if you need to pass a bill to save people, to give people, money to people, and you are more worried about an ex-president, which doesn't make sense. This should be first priority and not the impeachment of Donald Trump. So they must get their priorities right and get the money to the people and stop with this unnecessary impeachment of Donald Trump. Now, for the FX market this week, it will be quite a flat week because it's only the GDP of the United States that will get released, the advanced one, which I normally don't pay attention to. I like the prelim one or the preliminary one, GDP of the United States. That one looks much better for me. It also moves the market quite a lot. And also there's some news from Australia that will be out, which is the CPI data for Australia. So there's not much news for the FX market this week. Last week, the job claims came out, and it shows that 900,000 people basically was filing for insurance claim in the United States. So that is actually a bit of a downside for the job market in the United States. But for this week, I can tell you now, be very careful. I doubt the big stimulus will come this week, whether it's 1.9 or 4 trillion. I honestly doubt, because there's still a lot of infighting there, and the Democrats are concentrating, or some of the Democrats are concentrating on impeaching Donald Trump. So that story doesn't make sense. So I will tell you now, I don't think that the stimulus will come this week in the United States, and that will put some pressure on equities and will rather improve or increase the advancement of the US dollar. Also, big tech, it's a come and go story with Tesla earnings coming out, but also there was also cars that was recalled from Tesla. And then you have Facebook that actually had a problem with censorship, and a lot of people were actually leaving Facebook. And then also you have Apple, it's also the same story of censorship. So I'm not sure that people cancel their Apple contracts and all of those things. We will see that in the earnings. It looks a bit of a heavy one for big tech companies this week, and also for the big stimulus check. So please be very careful this week. And I personally think that this week will not be a good week for big tech, and also for the big stimulus check, for a big stimulus that will come out. And maybe if the markets see red this week, maybe the people in Congress will decide to move quicker with actually the stimulus checks. So please, this week, be very careful. It will be a flat week for the FX market, but it will be a big week for big tech, and also for the Congress people that needs to make a decision on the stimulus check. I will brief you more tomorrow on the stimulus check if I get some information of how far it is to get passed, but I honestly doubt it will be this week. So that is it from my side for today. Have a lovely trading day. For me, it will be a totally flat day. If I was you, I would rather have a trade open and maybe cash in here and there and close the trade. But I expect a very, very flat day. So that is it from my side. I will see you guys tomorrow at the same time at 1 o'clock. Bye-bye.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!